Okay, so I found me a video. It's very interesting of a topic. And for some reason, people think that the most powerful country in the world is America. I tend to agree, okay. Second would be Great Britain? Wait, what? How does that make sense? What about Russia? Well, let's find out what these people have to say for themselves. Because apparently to them, UK is the second most powerful country in the world. Oh boy. Dumb idiots. So, let's get started.
Attacks at range. European geostrategy described the UK's military power as comprehensive, advanced and diverse and, crucially, capable of launching attacks at range. Researchers claim the UK is the second most powerful country in the world behind the United States.
I have my doubts.
And could even win in war against China and Russia.
China and Russia individually or combined? I'd like to see that.
Has been named the world's only global power, with the US named as the only superpower by European geostrategy. The study will surprise many, with countries usually considered world giants, like China and Russia, only being given the label regional powers. They were joined by nations such as France, India and Germany. European geostrategy said being a global power meant the UK was a country lacking the heft or comprehensive attributes of a superpower, but still with a wide international footprint and military means to reach most geopolitical theaters, particularly the Middle East, Southeast Asia, East Asia, Africa and South America. It said the UK's military was comprehensive, advanced and diverse and a major participant in NATO and other coalition operations. Meanwhile, Britain continues to hold overseas defense bases at Ascension Island, Belize, Brunei, Canada, Diego Garcia, the Falkland Islands, Gibraltar, Kenya. 2011, Professor Malcolm Chalmers, Director of UK Defence Policy Studies at the Royal United Services Institute said, "The UK will never again be a member of the select club of global superpowers. Indeed, it has not been one for decades. Currently planned levels of defense spending should be enough for it to maintain its position as one of the world's 5 second-ranked military powers, with only the US in the first rank, as well as being with France one of NATO Europe's 2 leading military powers. Its edge, not least its quality."
Okay, so basically, UK is apparently is the second most powerful country in the world because they said so. Okay, how about you give me a little bit better of what you mean by that? Because from what I understand, because of your technology, you're better? Sure, that could be a reason why you are better, but saying you would win a war against Russia or China, which are global powerhouses, it's a stretch on its own. And saying stuff like this really just makes you look at these people with just that beautiful frown on your face, going like, why are you so stupid?
With countries usually considered world giants, like China.
Okay, so let's take this into account. How about the British Empire? It was the largest empire in history, at least we know. And the sun has never set on it, because the sun would always be at least on a small portion of the British Empire at least 24/7, I think it was, until everybody wanted independence, and that was rightfully so. Even at the very height of the British Empire, Napoleon, right? That was the guy's name. He went into Russia thinking he could conquer it. He came out bruised, bloodied, most of his men died due to the cold. Russia gave him a thanks and kicked his ass. So, even at the height of the British Empire, they still couldn't conquer Russia because they're idiots and they can't geography. And let's look at Hitler. Prime examples.
China and Russia, only being given the label regional powers, they were joined by nations such as France.
I don't understand what he means by that.
The study will surprise many, with countries usually considered world giants, like China and Russia.
World giants like China and Russia, and then he says a sentence that's completely off topic.
Only being given the label regional powers, they were joined by nations such as France.
Are you saying France made Russia? Because if that's the case, then that's incorrect. Russia is... I do not want to go far into it. So much history. So much death. So much happiness. But Russia was not made by anyone. It was made by the Kievan Rus. Or Kievan Rus. Kievan Rus, whatever they were called. And they mainly were Polish, Ukrainian, and Russian people. And most of them were Vikings, settlers, traders, and all those others. Yes, there was the Mongol Empire that took down the Kievan Rus' army and then made the Kievan Rus for only 2 years pay taxes to them and give them supplies. And then right after 2 years, which honestly I don't think 2 years is really that much, comparing that to Hitler or Napoleon. 2 years later, Kievan Rus took up arms and attacked them. More or less, the Kievan Rus straight up gave up. I mean, there was a giant fight, but to be honest, in order to take down Russia, you need to be smart and you need to hit hard. Just like the Mongolians.
India and Germany. European geostrategy said being a global power meant the UK was a country lacking the heft or comprehensive attributes of a superpower, but still with a wide international footprint and military means to reach most geopolitical theaters, particularly the Middle East, Southeast Asia, East Asia, Africa and South America. It said the UK's military was comprehensive, advanced and diverse and a major participant in NATO and other coalition operations. Meanwhile, Britain continues to hold overseas defense bases at Ascension Island, Belize, Brunei, Canada, Diego Garcia, the Falkland Islands, Gibraltar, Kenya, Bahrain and Cyprus. Alongside that, the UK still maintains nuclear weapons and its defense budget ranks.
They bring up nuclear weapons, they don't bring up how many they have, though. There's a reason why no one screws around with anybody else, is because, especially UK, they're not very good. History has proven that. Obviously, they have. And I'm not joking. The UK was completely annihilated multiple times, especially on ground. Think about the Nazis. They were completely destroying everyone, including, France, They destroyed any resistance, and hell, they even destroyed the Jewish resistance group. And that failed for about a month. And then they killed him, which was unfortunate. But then Poland took up arms against. I just can't understand that people think that UK is more powerful than freaking Russia. Sure, they may have better men, but their size is not as great. But when you really look at the numbers, you have a huge statement to go up against.
Fifth or sixth in the world. In briefing paper in 2011, Professor Malcolm Chalmers, Director of UK Defence Policy Studies at the Royal United Services Institute, said, "The UK will never again be a member of the select club of global superpowers. Indeed, it has..."
They don't even want to become a superpower. And they're not. They were. They were one of the biggest, and now they're nothing. Especially in the world today.
It's not been won for decades, but currently planned levels of defense spending should be enough for it to maintain its position as one of the world's 5 second-ranked military powers, with only the US in the first rank, as well as being with France one of NATO Europe's 2 leading military powers. Its edge, not least its qualitative edge, in relation to rising Asian power seems set to erode, but will remain significant well into the 2020s, and possibly...
Let me just tell you one thing. UK is not number 2 worldwide powerhouse. Can take on China, can take on Russia and win. Hell, they probably can't even take North Korea out. I'm saying it right now. They probably can't. Sure, North Korea has a 60-year gap between them and Britain, but still, they have the numbers, and they can have... Sure, I'm not talking about allies, I'm talking about just them two. I mean, honestly, they can take down the Navy, they can take the Air Force. But besides that, they're not going anywhere. They can't actually move in, they don't have the numbers. Sure, they could use technology, but yet again, they have technology too, to a certain extent. And we already know how strong T-72s, T-90s, T-80s are. Freaking strong as hell. So, they're not just gonna fall apart.
Beyond, Britain is also understood to score highly in the Chinese Comprehensive National Power Ranking System. CNP measures hard and soft, cultural, power as well as economic and military clout. However, the system is flawed as it does not take into account the facts that while China, for example, has a larger military force than the UK, it does not have the logistical capability to deploy, support and sustain those forces overseas in large numbers, wrote the UK Defence Journal. It added that the UK has greater capability than China, which is focusing its defenses more locally at present, for operating at range.
What does that mean? Getting your forces better, but you can't deploy them? What? That makes no sense. If you're saying something, but you can't do it, that's just really gonna hurt you. Alright, that's the video. Let me just...
Soft, cultural, power as well as economic and military clout. However, the system is flawed as it does not take into account the facts that while China, for example, has a larger military force than the UK, it does not have the logistical capability.
The force of the UK is around I think 300,000. I think, don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. Russia has 3 million, 3.2 million. China has around like 6 million. That's reserves and the actual army. And you have Russia's 15,000 tanks, China's 5th generation air power. You have the geography to go up against. You have so much to go up against: the oil and their allies. I don't know. I really don't know, Britain. Look, you had a good history, but I think you gone for that one.
To deploy, support and sustain those forces overseas in large numbers, wrote the UK Defence Journal. It added that the UK has greater capability than China, which is focusing its defences more locally at present, for operating at rate.
So basically they're doing more things with their army than China, but their forces is actually not better than China. I think that's what they're saying. Because if they're saying the opposite, their forces are better and they're doing more with their army, well, that's just not true. You also have, special forces to deal with, and those are really fun. Go ahead. Your choice, not mine. Great Britain is not number 2. Maybe NATO or EU-wise? Sure, I'll go ahead and say that. NATO or EU. Well, maybe not Britain, EU anymore. Get it? But NATO, maybe, yeah. Of course, France and Great Britain are really up there. So, that's the video for today. Bye. Have a good day. UK is 100% not the second most powerful country in the world. Bye. Right behind America, too. Yeah, no.